In this video I'll be going over events. Events allow you to track items on the page you wouldn't traditionally track with just normal web page tracking. I'll be going over the fundamentals of creating an event, and then we'll be creating an event in the Tag Manager without using a single line of code. So what is an event? An event is a tool you use to measure the activity within a page. For example, this page we have a gallery here, and if I click on this button I might want to know how often it is clicked when a visitor comes to my page. There's another button here which scrolls down. Because the page isn't changing, it's not really being tracked, so the only way we can really track these activities is using something like an event. You could use the same for adding an item to a shopping cart or playing media. So if you wanted to keep track of those activities, you would possibly also use an event. So we would need to add the event to the page. So adding events is quite simple with Matomo. If we go to the events docs, it's quite easy to find information about events in Matomo. Just use your favorite search engine, in this case events. If we scroll down the page here, we've got a bit of an example of using the event with your JavaScript. So each event has a category, event name and event action. In this first example we've got the category of documentary, the name play, and the event action is Thrive. So basically what this is saying is you've got a documentary, it's called Thrive, and you're playing it. Obviously you can have multiple events afterwards, perhaps saying how far through the user has played the video. This is pretty straightforward to test, so just grab the code snippet there, go back to our test page, open up the console and paste. If we check the network tab, we'll have a request here to our Matomo. If we scroll down to the query parameters, we've got our documentary, our play and Thrive being sent in the request. So if we have a look inside the Matomo itself, we'll see the documentary, play and Thrive has been added as an event. So an event is signified by this sort of diamond icon with the vertical lines. So what would be a practical example of using an event? Well, if we go back to our test page, at the top we've got a menu, and it's got just links to fragments in the page. The thing is, because the page isn't reloading, these interactions aren't being tracked at all. So if we go to the network tab and have a look at our traffic, nothing's been fed back to Matomo, so we've got no idea which button's being clicked on here. So what we could do is use an event to trigger a tag to tell us which of these menu items have been selected. So to do that we need to create a trigger first. So the trigger would be based on perhaps the class of this button. So we have a quick look on this and see what it is. So the class is navlink. So we can create a trigger, so whenever a button with, in this case, a menu button is clicked with navlink, it'll fire the trigger, which will create the request tag to make the request for the event. So we'll go ahead and create that now in the Tag Manager. So we're back in Matomo, we go to the Tag Manager, edit our container. So we want to create a new trigger based off that the class of that menu item. So we create a new trigger, all elements clicked, and we only want this to trigger when the class equals that nav menu or nav link. contains the nav link, because there were two different classes in there. So our trigger is all set up, and now we just want to set up our tag to send the event. So we'll use the Matomo Analytics tag. We'll just call this menu click so we can keep track of it. And we want to change the tracking type to an event, because we're tracking an event. Event category, I'm just going to make this the, I'm going to use the inbuilt variables and just use the page title. Event action, I'm going to use, just type in click menu. And event name, I'm going to choose the click text so I know which menu option the user had used. We want to execute this tag with our elements click trigger we created earlier. Go ahead and publish that. And now we'll just go back to our page and see if it's worked. So I'm back on the test page. We'll just bring up the console again so we can see what's happening. We have to reload the page, of course, for the new tag to be used. Now we'll get rid of this. Now if we click on the button, technically we should get a request, which we do. If we have a look at if we scroll down and have a look at the query string, we've got Matomo test page, click menu, home, which is the one I selected. If I choose contact and I scroll down on that one, we also get Matomo test page, click menu, contact. You can see in the visits log I've got menu, click, home and contact. So all those button clicks are now being tracked, so we know where our visitors are scrolling to in the page. And of course, once you've got enough data, you can go into your events report and then just break it down, what are the most popular items. So in summary, we've worked out what events do and how we can fire an event without actually writing any code at all. I encourage you to have a look at the matomo.org website or check the show notes for more information.